Welcome to the world where we fight to the finish, and at the heart of it is one recognizable image. Originators, titans of business, brand architects, respected since 9/7. Sky's the limit, and legend behind the logo.
Welcome to episode 10 of MMA Talk Canada, here with my good buddy Saad Suleiman today. And we're going to be breaking down UFC on Fuel 9, the Sweden card. It is Gegard Mousasi versus Ilir Latifi, new addition to the card. Alexander Gustafsson having to withdraw to the fight with a cut. The Athletic Commission would not let him fight because he has a cut. So Ilir Latifi comes up and replaces him. Saad, what are your thoughts on the card overall and the new change to the main event?
Well, it wasn't anyone's first choice to have Latifi as the main event opposite Gegard Mousasi. We were all looking forward to that matchup between Gustafsson and Mousasi. It was supposed to be an epic war with two heavy-handed strikers. It's really unfortunate that, I guess, Gustafsson had to fall face first into a cage and have a facial laceration so deep that it actually stops him from fighting. It's unfortunate. He really wanted to fight. He was actually on the record as saying that despite the cut, he was still ready to compete on Saturday. But this, crazy Swedish MMA Federation has stopped it. But maybe it's for the best, because I know Mousasi was actually also on the record saying that he wasn't even going to shy away from the cut. He was going to punch him on that same spot. So maybe it's better for Gustafsson's health that he doesn't fight, and Mousasi just doesn't get a cheap win in that sense. He still technically might get a cheap win here, as we will discuss later. I think he's going to steamroll Latifi. But it's better than nothing, because, to be honest, this card is okay, but there was no headlining type quality fighters on this card. Like, co-main event is Couture versus Pearson. Imagine if that was a headlining card for UFC Sweden. I don't think that could happen. So.
No, that wouldn't go over too well, and I'm curious to see if we see Gustafsson in the next couple of days, because I want to see what this cut looks like. I haven't seen any pictures online or anything like that, but it must be pretty bad if he fell face first into a cage. So we're going to start off with the first fight of the night. We got a guy from Sweden and Tough 14 veteran, Kira Corsani versus Robbie Peralta. We saw Robbie Peralta TKO Jason Young in his last fight, which was a good one. It was a very quick finish, but I think it's gonna be a really good fight because it's a featherweight fight, and these guys are known to bring it. But I don't know much about Peralta about his besides his last fight, but I think Corsani will get the win. In his last fight, Corsani against Andy Ogle. He showed his wrestling in that fight. He showed good striking. I think Corsani will get the decision win here. It should be a great fight to start off the main card. How about you, Saad?
Corsani beat Ogle last time?
Corsani beat him. It was a split decision, yeah.
Yeah, he beat Ogle. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought I heard you say that Ogle won, but it should be an interesting fight. Like, Corsani finally returns after besting Ogle last September, as you mentioned. He's a hometown guy from Sweden. He also fought, as you mentioned, in Tough, losing the semis to Bermudez, who was the eventual tournament finalist. Although Corsani is a tough fighter, if he's going to win, it's probably going to be by decision, using his ferocious pace and dirty boxing. Peralta, on the other hand, is undefeated in the UFC, with 3 straight wins, and the last 2 by knockout. He's looking actually pretty amazing, and so far I think he's going to take this one from Corsani, and he's going to upset the hometown fans in Sweden. So although this is the opening bout of the main card, I think the Swedish fans are going to have plenty to be upset about.
Yeah, exactly.
When the night's end.
Exactly, yeah, and he's he's only one of few on the that's on the card that is from Sweden. So the next fight we'll get into is Diego Brandao and Pablo Garza. And now this would be a great style matchup because Garza, usually when he fights his opponents, takes him to the ground and uses his long limb to submit his opponents. But we've seen him knock out people as well. But Diego Brandao, I believe, is on another level. Diego Brandao training at Jackson Winklejohn. I believe he's working incredibly hard in his wrestling, and he's got amazing stand-up. We've seen him on Tough 14 with his brutal finishes over some guys there that are very big names in the UFC now, but I still think Brandao has more power, and I think he's going to knock him out in the first or second round. How about you, Saad?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more in this case. Brandao was the Ultimate Fighter winner, who was actually on the same season as Akira Kurosawa. He's a hard-hitting, gutsy, wears his heart on his sleeve type of guy. I love watching his fights as he always leaves it all out there in the octagon. But if there's one knock on him, then that's his conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Brandao, he puts so much anger and power in every punch he throws, it's no wonder he gets tired. He's been getting better at controlling that as of late, as his last fight with Joey Gambino showed. Garza, on the other hand, as you mentioned, is a different sort of fighter. He's long, lanky, and his key is to use his distance and try to simplify as Brandao gets tired. That's a higher possibility than people think, than people would give him credit for, because as his win over Hamlet showed, Garza is game. But I think Brandao takes this with a devastating finish, as he's been accustomed to doing. As long as he can tag Garza, because Garza does have the tendency to lose his chin up there.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as he gets him tied, I think he'll be able to knock him out.
And I remember hearing something crazy a while ago after the Mark Hominick fight that Pablo Garza wanted to go down to 135. And when you see Garza at the weigh-ins at when he weighs in at 145, he is sucked up, man. It looks like he doesn't have an ounce of anything on his body. And he said he wants to be the John Jones of 135. So who knows? Maybe after this fight we'll see him down there. Okay. So the next fight is Brad Pickett versus Mike Easton, and this will be a very high-paced fight, a very close fight, I think, as well. And either one of these guys need to get the win to stay relevant in the division. Both fighters coming off losses. Easton to Rafael Assunção, and Pickett just lost to Eddie Wineland. It's a pretty hard fight to predict because they're both going to stand and bang, I think. Brad Pickett having wins over Yves Jabouin with a devastating knockout, and Mike Easton having good fights with Jared Papazian, and I believe he beat somebody else that was pretty good too, Ivan Menjivar. And those were both by decision, by the way. And I think Pickett will be able to, I'm not going to say he's going to be able to finish the fight, but I think Pickett will be able to just stay away from Easton's power and stay out of the clinch as Easton likes to do. And I think Pickett will be able to get the decision here. How about you, Saad?
Yeah, I agree with you on the fight pick, but win or lose, Pickett always turns in an exciting fight.
Yep.
And that's why Dana White has said that he loves Pickett.
Yep.
He just thinks he's an awesome fighter. And to be honest, because he's so exciting, that is why I think he's going to win this fight. Easton, if you notice his fights, he has trouble letting loose. He's been choosing more conservative approaches in his tenure in the UFC. He was undefeated, obviously, until he lost to Rafael Assunção, and is looking to get back on track. And I do think that Easton is a more athletic fighter, and I think he also has more potential. I think Pickett's probably best days are behind him, especially after losing the Wineland fight. He's still going to be a brawler, and he's still going to put on exciting performances, but I think obviously Easton has the better road, I think, ahead of him. I think he's still 30, but just seeing enough of him, I think that he has more to gain in this fight. Easton does. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, because he fights so conservative, I think he's going to somehow lose the decision because of the way Pickett fights. Exciting, fast-paced, and that's going to obviously score in the judges' eyes, and that'll help him walk away with the unanimous decision.
Yeah, and Pickett, with his good boxing, it's going to be a very, very good fight. I think it'll be a close one, but as we said, we think Pickett will get the win. All right, so the next fight, we actually got a heavyweight fight here. We got Matt Meathead Mitrione versus Philip DeFries, and both these guys are hungry. Meathead coming off 2 losses in a row to Czech Congo, and then in his Roy Nelson fight, I was very impressed with Matt Mitrione. His kicks were hard. When he was kicking Roy Nelson, they were very, very good. Great Muay Thai improvement since working with the Blackzilians down in Florida. And then Philip DeFries training at Alliance, working with Brandon Vera, all those good guys, Phil Davis. So I think it's going to be a good fight. I think DeFries just lost his last fight against Todd Duffy, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think he was knocked out by Todd Duffy in Duffy's return.
Yeah, exactly, yep. I think Mitrione will get the win here. I think his striking will be better, and I think he'll be able to dictate the pace wherever he wants to put the fight, and maybe see a late second round stoppage or so, or early third round. How about you, Saad?
Yeah, I see it pretty similarly as you see it as well. As Mitrione has been quoted as saying, his head is on the chopping block. After dropping consecutive fights to, as you mentioned, both Nelson had a really lackluster performance to check combo. Mitrione really needs a win here. Lucky for him, DeFries might be the perfect fight to get him back in the win column. Since debuting in the UFC, DeFries has alternated wins and losses, bringing his total to 2-2. However, what is telling about that record is that both of his losses has come by knockout. That could spell trouble because Mitrione packs punching power, and I think he's going to turn the lights out on DeFries. DeFries also could be on the chopping block as well with a loss. So either one or two things could happen here. One, an amazing fight where they both go at it looking for the win. Or two, a lackluster fight where both of them trying to play it safe. Similar to the LeVar Johnson-Brendan Shaw fight.
Yeah.
But given it's heavyweight, a boring fight might not be the end of the world. It may not lead to a pink slip if the winner should do so in a boring fashion. But in this new world of 100 cuts, nothing is for certain. And I'm thinking Mitrione wins by knockout.
Yeah, exactly. And with Matt Mitrione's improved stand-up with the Black Zillions, training with Tyrone Spong, Anthony Johnson, Rashad Evans, his former coach on Tough, I think we see brighter days for Matt Mitrione in the future. I was really impressed by his performance, even though he lost against Roy Nelson. Very, very impressive performance. Okay, so the next fight we got here is the co-main event of the evening. We got Ross Pearson versus Ryan Couture. I almost said Randy Couture. And yes, it is Randy Couture's son. Ryan Couture's last fight against, who was his last fight against in Strikeforce?
Ryan Couture was against KJ Noons.
And that was a very controversial decision. I didn't see the fight personally, but I've heard a lot of stuff on Twitter and on the internet that it was a very, very controversial decision and that people thought that KJ Noons won. Did you see that fight, Saad?
Yeah, I was watching it live. It was close. A lot of people did feel that Noons won. I think it was close. It could have really gone either way, depending on, I think, one of the rounds, how it could have been scored. But I think arguably, yeah, you can make the case that Noons was robbed, but it wasn't such a bad decision that's like unforgivable. And at the same time, both of them are in the UFC,
So how do you see this fight going, Saad?
Well, this fight is interesting for two reasons. One, it's Couture's first fight in the octagon, and the first without his father beside him, legendary Randy Couture.
Yep.
The elder Couture just had a recent tussle with Dana White when he left his broadcasting gig on Fox to go over for a job at Spike. This adds a layer of drama to Couture's UFC debut. It'll be interesting to see how it may affect his performance, but Ryan has shown poise by not taking sides in the dispute and wanting to lay it all in the octagon. Also, it's kind of cool to see the first son of a fighter competing in the UFC, showing that how far MMA has come. Secondly, this should be a great fight as Couture is on a 4-fight win streak. Pearson also back to gold self as he destroyed Soteropoulos in the tough smashes finale. It's good to see him back at lightweight. I think it's a better weight class for him. He looked horrible at featherweight, especially when he got knocked out by Cub Swanson. Pearson in this fight is the heavy favorite, but you can't always judge a fighter based on his last performance. So although Pearson knocked out Soteropoulos, Couture also, as you mentioned, won a controversial close decision over KJ Noons in his last outing. But I'm going to pick this fight mainly on the idea that the Strikeforce fighters' debuts are a great indication of how this fight will play out as well. And because of how well the other fighters have been doing, I think this should be an interesting fight. And I think Couture's going to pull it out. His tenacity, grit, and toughness should earn him a decision win.
Yeah, that's different. I'm going with Ross Pearson in this fight. I think Ross really wants to solidify himself in the lightweight division. Ross has fought really who's who in the lightweight division, fighting Edson Barbosa, Cole Miller, Spencer Fisher. He's fought some other really top opponents in the division, and I think Pearson will be able to get the win. I'm not going to say he's going to stop Couture. he's probably going to end up getting a decision, but it'd be cool to see Ross Pearson look for the finish, as he did in his last fight against George Soteropoulos. So I have Pearson, unanimous decision. All right, next fight is the main event, as me and Sal were talking about earlier. We have Gegard Mousasi versus Ilir Latifa. And Ilir Latifa, as you said, as we said, is a late replacement for Alexander Gustafsson. They're both training partners, so they may have been training together for this fight. And Ilir is 7-2. He's got two TKOs, 3 subs, and 2 submissions. So we see a mix of finishes and decisions, and a mix of both TKO and submissions. We obviously think Gegard Mousasi is going to win this fight hands down. Mousasi is ranked at number 12 or 13 in light heavyweight in the light heavyweight rankings, and has way more experience than Ilir Latifa. And the one fighter who is notable in Ilir Latifa's background is Emmanuel Newton, and he lost to Emmanuel by decision. Which I'll give Ilir props, because Emmanuel Newton is a good fighter, and to bring him to decision is very good. So, Saad, do you see Gegard Mousasi finishing this fight?
Yeah, I see him winning the first round TKO. But one thing I want to mention is, ever since this fight was announced, one thing was on the tip of everyone's tongue. That's who. From the moment that the Gustafsson injury surfaced, the fact that he may not even be able to compete, to Wanderlei Silva's April Fool's joke, and finally to Ilir Latifi late replacement, who is all everyone's been saying. Now for this fight, I've seen some footage of Latifi and seen, that his record 7-2 with 1 no contest, and given that he has less than 1 week to prepare, all signs point to his big dominance. Mousasi is a stalwart fighter who technically should be fighting at middleweight. I'm staying by that. He doesn't even train that much. I think he can cut the weight and be a monster at that weight class.
Mm-hmm.
He was the former Dream champion at light heavyweight. Like, he is a technically great fighter. But, and I think this is his coming out party in the UFC. The only thing I'm thinking is that Latifi could be summoning the Swedish spirit from his hometown crowd and then pulling out some amazing knockout. But that's so unlikely, and I think Mousasi is going to win this by first round TKO.
Yeah, if Latifi does win this fight in the first round, it'll probably be the upset of the year, and it'll be a rocky story in his hometown. If he can win, because I don't know what the odds are, but this is a very favored fight for Mousasi, because, like I said, Mousasi has all this experience. He's had a hard training camp, and he's been training for Alexander Gustafsson, so he's going to be in shape and be a good fight. So there you go, guys. There's our predictions for UFC on Field 9 in Sweden. It's going to be on tape delay. It will most likely be on in the afternoon. So make sure you either record the fights or watch them in the afternoon. They won't be on prime time at night. So just so you guys know that. And there we have it. Anything you want to say, Saad, to conclude the card off?
Well, it started off as such a great card, especially with the Gustafsson and Mousasi fight. Everybody was looking for that. It's unfortunate we don't get to see that. But you know what? The UFC's been on a hiatus for 2 weeks, and I've been missing it. So, I'm down for anything.
Yeah, exactly. And we have another card coming up after that one, and that's Uriah Faber and Scott Jorgensen, and I am pumped for that one. So we'll have our predictions up for that one very shortly. So there you have it, guys. Enjoy the fights on Saturday. Peace.